I have so many beautiful gifts and abilities that I'm really tapping into. So I have the ability for remote viewing, and I also have the ability for, I'm a knower. So you'll see some people that they see things, they hear things, they taste things. There's a lot of different gifts and how communications come in. And I'm just a knower. So I can just know who's in the room or what's going on. I also have something that I call my yellow brick road.
Yeah.
So if anybody asks me a question, I can dial into the yellow brick road. And if it continues to glow, then I know, okay, what we're doing is right on. But then I'll even like a highway see little branches. So if someone asks me a question, I can see the branch, and then we can drive into there and then go into and where we need to explore on that little off ramp to get us back onto the road.
Wow. Okay. I am not going to wait to interview you more about those things because that's fascinating. How did you end up with these gifts? I mean, were you born with these? Did you develop these?
I must have been born with it, to be honest with you.
You always remember having this.
I always remember having this.
Yeah.
I could hear the radio. I knew what song was going to play on the radio before it played, like all the time. But I didn't really tap into it because it wasn't discussed in my family. I mean, I grew up in Minneapolis area to a family, and my dad was an entrepreneur, and my mom was supported him, and it just wasn't something we talked about. And then when I was pregnant with my son, I started to explore and just get curious. That's probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And then with my daughter, who is 9 years old, it was an unexpected pregnancy, and I'm really sick with my pregnancies. So then I didn't see the joy instantly when I needed to.
Yeah.
So I started to work with one of our beautiful mentors in the Community for Higher Consciousness, Maureen Higgins from Wings of Freedom. And she really helped me change my mindset of we were chosen and this soul wants me as their mother.
Yeah.
And working with it that way rather than being the little brat that I was of, I'm sick, I don't feel well, I don't want this is not my agenda, this is not my plan. And it's just that beautiful little reminder that it is. And then I just started opening. And
so this is not that long ago.
No, 9 years, 10 years.
Okay, before we go down there,
Sure.
What was your childhood like? Like, what kinds of messaging were you getting when you...
I didn't really tap into it, but I always had imaginary friends, and I was always talk with them. I have no problem just talking to anyone. I'll get stopped on the street, and people will start telling me their life story. And it's just these little collections that just, I see things before they happen.
Yeah.
It's.
So you were aware enough to know that that was happening and that it was different?
Yes.
And that it should be hidden?
It just wasn't talked about. So I just kind of shelved it is probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And actually the first time I did see Maureen as an intuitive counselor, I told her, well, that's it. I don't need you anymore. And it was like, okay, this is great. I came to communicate with my grandmother that had passed, and I got it. And I was like, okay, we're done. And I think it just...
Well, what was going through you that you said that?
I don't know. I was like, we're done. Okay. And in actuality, it opened up Pandora's box and got me extremely curious and wanting more. And it's interesting when you can communicate with someone that has passed on. So many people are so saddened and there's just such emotion. And I just was like, oh, I got to talk to Baba today. And it was just so matter of fact. And it's so beautiful. And when they come to you, and when you watch TV shows or you talk to other people that are mediums and they have these lists and they want these signs, so much I get, I'm learning my pictures, and my pictures are just, a lot of times they just come with hearts just flowing out of them. Just love, 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 love. Oh. We love you. We've got your back. We love you, and trust. And I think so many humans, and it's not it's less than it was before. And people that are coming to see me are more trusting, and they know I don't have to do the song and dance at a time for them to get that, okay, we're really bringing these people in and these souls in, and we're really communicating. It's not that as much as it's let's just start talking. Let's just start communicating.
Wow. So you will help someone hold a conversation with, an actual conversation with someone who has passed over.
Yeah.
What?
Let's ask questions. Let's interact.
Wow.
Maureen was actually helping when I was pregnant with baby names for my daughter.
Because the baby had an
Yeah.
idea what she wanted
Yeah,
to be
she
named?
wanted, and my daughter, and just through our intuitive session, my daughter told her that she wanted to be born no drugs. She wanted it all natural. By the way, my daughter was born in 19 minutes.
Wow, she knew
yeah,
that if she
knew.
gave you longer that you
Yep,
might
I
actually
might
go
actually.
to the drugs.
Absolutely. Oh, I just remember looking and just like, where's my drugs coming? I want my drugs. And she came. That she needed to learn Latin, that she was going to have dairy and other sensitivities, and my daughter does. It's just amazing when you just open yourself to it, and you just open yourself to it. I work with people, and yes, I use all my tools to help them find what they want to discover in our session. And
So-
it's a really interesting approach.
Yeah. So it sounds haphazard isn't the word, but spontaneous.
Very
It has a
spontaneous.
lot of movement to different areas of your expertise. Is that right?
We'll start with, a lot of people will want to speak to someone that has passed.
Yeah.
So we'll start with that, and then they'll have a message, and then that'll evolve to, well, at work, I'm doing this. Should I do this or should I do that? Okay, well, let's dial in on it. And
So then your intuitive
then
dial
my
comes
intuitive just
into-
dials in for those gifts as well.
And you mentioned remote viewing. How does that come into play?
I think that's my yellow brick road, to be honest with you, because that's where you can dial in and you can see what's going on. That's how I see it.
So,
And I might be totally wrong, so if anyone sees this and wants to comment, they can.
well, Yellow Brick Road has a beautiful connotation to it. So when did that first start coming to you?
Probably about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And then when I protect myself, when I go out into the world, I'm Glenda the Good Witch, and I put myself in the bubble.
Oh, it's such a beautiful bubble.
And you'd think that I was like this big Wizard of Oz person, and I'm not. It's just what comes to me with my pictures.
Wow. Do you think everybody has this capacity?
I think you just have to tap into it.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a gift. So
Well, sure,
when I was
yeah.
working with my dad, I was having health issues, and I was putting together this team. I wanted to work with the best of the best. So I started intuitive counseling, and I went to medical mediums, and I started using essential oils and functional medicine. And functional medicine's really about the why. So
Yeah.
how if you were, when you were 8 years old, got into a car accident, but you walked away, you mentally in your mind were like, oh, I made it, it's fine. But your 8-year-old still could be holding on to the PTSD of getting in a terrible car accident.
Right.
So you go back to that little girl, and you go back to that little boy, and you work with them.
Wow. So why is why so important to you? What's the, I mean, because you wrote a little note before the interview, and why seemed to be a very central word that kept popping out.
It just keeps popping up.
Yeah.
An example is a client that I had last week, and her son didn't want to go to camp. And we're talking, and I'm like, why are you have such an issue with your son going to camp? Well, I don't want him to go. My husband wants him to go, and my mother-in-law wants him to go. And I'm like, okay, so something I'm really good is to have very frank conversations with people. I'm like, okay, tell me more about this camp.
Yeah.
Well, for him to get confirmed, he has to go to this camp. Have you talked to your son about getting confirmed? She's like, oh, he doesn't want to get confirmed at all. We're doing it for my mother-in-law. Okay. So can we talk about this? She's like, sure. Why don't you go talk to your son and have the discussion about getting confirmed? And then that'll really open up if he really wants to go to camp.
Right.
She's like, great, I never thought about that. I'm like, okay. She called me the next day. He doesn't want to get confirmed. She's not making him go to camp. And what she's said is she's going to have her husband talk to the mother-in-law, and they can deal with it. So I'm like, you're pulling yourself out of it. It's actually a win-win on so many different levels. You're not making him go to here. You're not making this. And then everybody wins. And if your son wants to get confirmed when he's 18 or older, give him the tools and let him explore it.
Yeah.
So it's digging down, and it's having that ability to ask those really tough questions on telling me why, because you might have had this happen to you and your body's just pushing it down, and then it's coming out in different ways.
Yeah.
I had a rash for 2 years at the end of working for my dad, and I tried everything to get rid of this rash.
And what was it?
What?
Why was it? Why did you have it? Why?
Well, why? I wasn't supposed to be doing what I was doing, and I had to make the decision: love for my family and love for my dad, or love for myself. And something that we're learning with some of the trainings that through Wings of Freedom, that a lot of the CHC members are doing, is breaking those generational traditions that are happening over and over and over again. And a lot of why I believe that we're here now is to just stop and break. And I know there's a lot of ancestral issues that I'm dealing with that my kids are not going to inherit. And my husband's not going to. I mean, it's just so beautiful. And we're working on the ancestral. Sometimes in sessions we go 15 generations back. I mean, that's deep stuff.
Isn't that amazing? But do you find most people don't understand that?
No, this is where you're like, I just want to go talk to dead people again. They just bring it back. Okay.
So do you find that most people come to you with someone they want to talk to, but they have issues like that become apparent to you?
Yes.
Do you have to then, or do you move them into some healing place? Because do you consider yourself a healer even?
Yes. Yes. I'm a trained in Reiki and energy work, and our whole family works on each other all the time, and it's really, really lovely. But I can walk in, I can scan your chakras, and I can, what about this and what about this, and those are fun things. I just have to start refining my tools. I need to get my toolbox out and start sharpening them more and more. And
yeah, why? Because you feel your capacity?
I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of what I could be doing.
Whoa.
But then I have a mind for business, and I love marketing, and you could come to me with ideas, and I could just walk around any place and just come up with 50 ideas on how you could do this and how you could do that and how you could market it.
But that's a beautiful use of your intuition and gifts, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, because you're trying to live an alternate life right now.
I am. I'm straddling it.
You've got a couple of lives going on. How would you describe that?
Time consuming.
Yeah, because you work as a marketing vice president.
I do.
Yeah,
I do. There's just so much, and there's just so much that I want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting, especially in times that are happening around us in the world, just sitting with gratitude. Something that I also just finished a certification on is Ho'oponopono. Mm-hmm. And I'm now saying that mantra 500 times a day. And I actually had shiatsu yesterday.
Yeah. And
at the end, I mean, I'm in so much pain from all of what she's been working on with me. And at the end, the energy was so different than any other session that I've had before, pre this training. And she just started giggling at me and going, Kelly, what are you doing? And I told her what I was doing about it, because she knew that I'd been working on it. She's like, Kelly, it's yummy, gooey, ooey love that you're feeling. And I just was so blessed. So this stuff works.
Yeah.
I just want to go to people. You don't have to take a drug. You don't have to take this. You just...
And for people who don't know what Ho'oponopono is, want to give us just a little...
It's an old Hawaiian beautiful mantra is probably the best way to describe it. It is about love, and it is about forgiveness. And what was interesting... And gratitude. It's, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. And it is so calming and beautiful. And I originally was putting it outward, and then the minute I just shifted it and turned it inward, it changed.
That's a lovely thought.
Yeah, it was great.
Okay, that's Hawaiian.
That's Hawaiian.
And Hawaii seems to have some special pull for you. Why would that be? You said you work in the aloha.
Aloha,
energy.
Be aloha, live aloha is. So I've been so blessed to be go on islands, and the aloha spirit is true. And if you have not experienced the aloha spirit, you just know the moment you get it, and you're there. I cry when I land. I mean, I tell people on the plane around me, I'm like, I will be a puddle. You will see me start, like, here we go. And then when we start landing, and I was blessed to be engaged out there. I was married up at Kapalua, and we had a double rainbow at our ceremony. And it's just the spirit. It's just this energy that is just so beautiful, that I try to really use as a mantra of just live aloha, be aloha. And if we could just do that to each other, oh my goodness. I know it's so simple. I think people just want to overthink things, and they just shouldn't. We just So anytime I can get a little bit of aloha, I just get excited.
So how will that show up in your life and your practice? How would people experience that if they come to you?
It's just who I am. It's just what radiates out of me. I just keep it really, really simple. Yeah. It's just kindness. It's love. It's gratitude. It's love for ourselves. It's be kind to someone today. If you see some litter on the ground, pick it up.
Yeah, it's so simple.
When your kids come to you and want to talk about Legos for an hour and a half, at least give them eye contact for 15 minutes. Yes. Yes. As you can see, I have children. In business, and I tell a lot of my clients, keep it clean and kind. And if you're going to have a courageous conversation and you're going to talk about some real deep stuff, you have to keep it clean and kind. If you can stay heart-centered and clean and kind, you can go to anybody and say something very honest, and they know that you're coming at it with love, and they accept it so much differently than if you just pick at them or you have that negative spin. But if you just hold aloha in everything you do, I think it just shines through. And it's hard to describe.
It is. I was going to say, if someone comes to you, is it transferable? Can you help them to open up to that?
I can try.
Yeah.
I can hold space for them. I think holding space for people is something that I'm very, very blessed. When we started today, I brought the crystalline dimension in, and it just all of a sudden feels just a little lighter and a little more open.
Yeah.
And I don't have space for negativity just to be negative, because so many people want to do that. And I look at that as just their little spouts to just like blow the volcano. It's just that they need their little puffs just to kind of blow it out, when just you don't need to do that. Right. And you don't have to. There's so much of abundance that just because someone has something that either you want or that is beautiful and you don't have to try to take it away. Just go get your own. Yeah. And just go make it happen.
Yeah. Don't you think that might be part of what the transition is right now, that we're moving from the idea of scarcity to the knowing of plenty?
How do you describe that to people that are not open?
I don't know.
Because there's so much fear going on.
There is, yeah.
And that's where, anytime I talk to anybody now, I'm really grateful. I'm grateful of my life. I'm grateful for what I have. I'm grateful what I don't have. Yeah. I'm grateful that I have this beautiful home and family that I love and trust, and we're staying safe. Yeah. And I hope that for everybody.
Who are your clients?
So I've had a full spectrum. Most recently, when people are coming to me, they want to connect with somebody. So you have to be open to connecting with somebody before you're going to sit down on a couch with me. But I've also been very, very blessed to work with what I look at it is that people that have done exactly the way they're supposed to do. They've gone to school, they've worked up the ranks of their career, they're successful, they have a beautiful home, they drive nice cars, and I'm saying all these very materialistic things, yet there's a longing, yet there's this sadness, yet there's still this, what's their why? Why aren't they sitting with it saying, I'm so blessed? And it's uncovering those whys.
Is there a universal why that shows up more often than not?
Do you know what? We just want to be loved. We just want to be loved and accepted. Yeah. And I find even in my own family, I have two brothers, and one of them wanted a Norman Rockwell upbringing, and he wanted that so bad. And that's not what we had. Now, I think my parents did the best they could. I really do. But it wasn't the way that he wanted it. Yeah. So we want to be accepted. We want to be acknowledged. It's so simple. I think we overcomplicate it on so many different levels, but people want to be loved. Yeah. They want to be told you're doing a great job, and they want to be nudged when you're not doing a good job, just a little bit, just, or could we just try this, or let's try that. Yeah. I work with, it's interesting, some heavier people. They just don't have time. They just don't have time to budget. And I give them little advice. Okay, like smokers. I don't know how I've attracted some smokers, but smokers. I'm like, okay, if you're gonna have a cigarette, go buy a great cigarette. Go get a match. Go have ceremony with that cigarette. Yeah. Don't just do that. Set up time and enjoy this. And I told someone last week, okay, you love sugar? Great. Go get beautiful, beautiful chocolate. Yeah. Set a time, unwrap the wrapper, and have ceremony with it before. Don't just do this, but have ceremony. And I think it resonates.
That's a beautiful thought, because you're talking about consciousness as opposed to unconsciousness and just habitual life, which a lot of us can fall into.
Just in that whirlwind.
Yeah. Well, leads us up to the Community for Higher Consciousness, of which you are a founding member.
I am a founding member.
So why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because it just makes sense to me, and I know there's other members that will have beautiful ways of putting it, but to me it's living in a beautiful way of being kindness and being open, and if your gut's screaming at you about something, dig in deep and ask questions. Be kind to people. Being kind is so important, and listen to yourself.
Do you have goals that you're looking at right now for yourself? You mentioned about continuing to hone your skills and all that, but is there more than that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lots of goals.
What?
No, I don't really know. I feel like I'm at, and I think a lot of people are at this. I think I'm at this crossroads right now of, I just feel like I'm just practicing and practicing and practicing. There's always that feeling of not good enough. And there's always that someone that would know more. And that's what I love about the Community for Higher Consciousness, is because we are a team of so many different talents. I actually was at an event, and a lady came up to me that was running it, and she's going at my age, we're a month apart, and she had breast cancer, and she was dealing with it. And I gave her some just Kellyisms and tips and tricks. And we actually, the day before her operation, we blessed the surgeons. We made sure that the operating room was extremely sterile and clean, and that everyone was well rested, and just everything was aligned for a beautiful day for her. But then I realized that I had not been on that journey, and there's another lady in our beautiful community that had gone through it, and I'm like, you need to connect with this lady. So I'm able to, without ego, and no one in our group has ego. We just share and collaborate, because we're a team. And it's team not in the sports, but that everybody has something different to share, and we can. How do you put that into words? I think you just do that.
I think you just did.
We do that, and we build each other up.
But that's a model for the world.
Maybe that's what the Community for Higher Consciousness is.
Yeah, it's collaboration, it's community, it's integrity.
It is.
Yeah, and it ripples out through all of you.
It does.
Do you have anything else that you want to add? Because I think this was marvelous.
Really?
Yeah.
This has just been a blessing, and I'm so excited to get this out there.
Yay.